ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Wave Files. Of course, my name is Reg West. On this edition of Wave Files, I have one of my good friends. Man, to me, she should be looked up to from all ages, all demographics. The work that she's done in the marketing business is phenomenal. She's got awards, she's got accolades, and she's my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Miss Natasha. Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Reg.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Why you pause like that?
2021. We're getting started off with a little bang. So, and there's some remnants of 2020. But me personally, I'm good. I'm blessed. Just thinking about the world.
Yeah, you're talking about speaking of the world, and we hear the ambulances going on outside. Yeah, it's exactly the background noise we need for what's happening. Listen. I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast today and giving an opportunity to talk about your life story and how you got to where you got to. I think, like I said over the phone to you, I think your story is super important to tell, and I think people can learn and just mature from the events you've dealt with over the years. So again, thank you for coming through.
No, thank you for having me. And one of my purposes, I know on God's purposes for me is to be able to be a bridge builder and even my own life experiences to create pathways and opportunities for others. I know that is my purpose, no matter what I'm doing. So I'm
about to play some Kirk Franklin in the background over here. About to play some Jesus music. Okay. So listen, speaking of music, before we tell people about what you do currently working at Google and having a AdAge 40 under 40 under your belt, let's talk about where you started and how we actually met. You started in the music business working at Bad Boy. That's how I met you.
Yep.
So can we talk about how you made it to Bad Boy, what you did at Bad Boy, and that whole era? Because I vaguely remember the first time seeing you in the office. Because just hindsight, people, back in the day, DJs would come to the office for records. We would talk to the promo people,
physical records,
the vinyl, the actual vinyl. We would talk to the promo people about the records they got coming out and how we could help them promote the records. And we would be in the offices. And I remember seeing you running through the office, like chasing after somebody for something. And I was like, someone introduced me to you, like, oh, that's Tasha. I'm like, and you're like, hi. And you kept pushing. So
it was probably dollars. It was probably Rich. I think that's
crazy ass Rich Dollars. Yeah.
And Phil, that's how I met you and Phil at the same time, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. Phil was with me that day. Shout out to Phil. I forgot about that.
And then I always would see you guys at parties after that. It's a wild story how I actually even got into the music industry. So it goes back to when I was in college. I went to Georgetown University undergrad, and my major was finance. I was a finance, I went into school saying, I'm going to Wall Street. And I was one of those kids that had a plan. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to Wall Street. I'm good at math, so I'm going to do finance, and I want to make money, right? So I'm going to go do finance. And at the time, I'm older, but at the time, Wall Street was booming, right? And that's what you did. If you majored in business, you go to Wall Street. So my plan was I'm going to go to Wall Street. I'm going to do that for 2-3 years. Then I'm going to go to law school, get my JD MBA, and they'll go be a corporate, attorney doing M&A deals. I didn't even know what that meant really, but I was like, that's the path that I had for myself when I was.
Wait, hold on. You just said a whole bunch of acronyms I never heard of before. So, but continue. Go ahead, continue.
So that was my plan. So, and when I was at my school at Georgetown, it's a liberal arts school, but we had colleges within the school that you had the School of Foreign Service, where you have where Georgia's current senator, John Ossoff, went to. So the people who run the world went to the School of Foreign Service. The people who want to go into business went to the School of Business, and so on and so forth. So I was very focused on just business and finance. And I had no idea that I would ever be able to have a career in music. I didn't know anyone who worked in music. I didn't know what I would be able to do, but it was always a passion of mine. So my minor randomly was Japanese, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to differentiate myself, right? So my minor was Japanese, and my junior year I went abroad to Japan, and I lived in Tokyo for my junior year, and it was my 21st birthday, and I went to a Jay-Z concert, and at the Jay-Z concert, I'm like the only Black person in the room. I went with one of my friends who he was Iranian American, so we're just like the two oddballs in the room. And while I'm at the concert, like one of Jay's people, I believe it was Beehive, was like, "Yo, where are you?" I remember it was Beehive and Tata and Lenny S and all them. They're like, "Yo, where?" And this is way early 2000s. I'm old. They were like, and this is when Jay was doing standing room only venues globally.
So they could see you. I got you.
I was right in the front. Now I'm standing room only Black person there. This was the Blueprint 1 album around 2002. Mm-hmm. So I'm standing there, they're like, "Yo, you're Black. What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just, like, I'm here. It's my 21st birthday." They're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "From New York." They're like, "That's crazy. Like, after the show, you need to come meet Jay and whatever." And I was like, the craziest experience.
Right.
I got to meet him, and I'm standing like on the side of the stage watching so the side Jay-Z meeting Jay-Z aside, right? Because that was awesome. But this moment was like one of the turning points of my life, because it helped me pivot and figure out, like, this is what I actually want to do. So I'm sitting at the side of the stage, and I could see the whole crowd. And these are Japanese people who most of them don't know English, but they're singing every Jay-Z lyric word for word. And that did something to me. And like some people have like what Oprah calls an aha moment. That was my aha moment. I'm like, and I got like tingly. I got like real tingly or whatever. Like, when you see someone that you love and you start feeling those things. Like, I started feeling those tingly feelings, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but that power right there is something that I want to be a part of. Music just has the ability just to transcend borders, and to see someone, a guy, Jay-Z from Brooklyn, being able to go to a country like Japan and to mean that much to people. I'm like, again, I don't know what I can do here, but I want to be a part of that magic and that experience, and like making like artists' dreams come true, and like helping bring that kind of experience to fans. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So I come back to school, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to do music, but what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get into it? And I interviewed all the banks that came on campus, and I did not get one job. It was depressing. I didn't get one job. This is how I think, like, God's plan is bigger than the one we have for ourselves, because I got to like a final round of one of the jobs, and I was like, this is what they do. This is what banking is. I don't know that I want this. And I wasn't passionate about it, and I didn't. And so that was why I didn't get the result that I thought I wanted. So I was my senior year. All my friends had jobs. They were going off to Wall Street, consulting, doing whatever. And I didn't have a job. And I'm like type A, like perfectionist, always like getting stuff done. And it was such a scary feeling. So I came home. This is another crazy story. I came home for spring break that year, my senior year. And one of my best friends went to Hofstra. So I was out visiting her at Hofstra. And we're driving into the city, and this is the time that Making the Band was on TV. So I kind of knew all the players at Bad Boy just from the television show.
Okay.
And, I'm like, wow, working for Puff looks crazy. That looks amazing. I want to be a part of that. Like, because he wrote the soundtrack of my teenage years, and like, so I'm like, God, like that would be so dope to be working at Bad Boy, and then seeing it on the show. So I started seeing all the players there. So it was like Tracy Waples and Allison Stanley and Harve Pierre. And while this is when the first season of Making of the Band, and we're driving in from the city, and Puff's on the radio randomly, and with Flex, and he's like, "Shout out to my man Harve Pierre, it's his birthday," which I now know is March 9th because he's my future boss.
Right.
So he's like, "Shout out to Harve Pierre, happy birthday," and I just remembered that. I don't know why I retained that information. Coincidentally, we go to Justin's for dinner. And
Justin, ladies and gentlemen, Justin's was a restaurant in New York City that was the place to be on a Tuesday. Anyway, continue.
It was Puff's restaurant. Justin's named after his first son, Justin. And across the street, remember, there used to be all those clubs.
Like all the clubs right across the street. Yep.
They're gone now, but there used to be all the clubs now. Now it's like Soul Cycle over there. It's weird. So there's like a pool across the street, and I don't know at the time what it was named, but it was probably where like Plate was, or whatever, bed. What are those?
Right.
Oh, and I go in there and I see Harve in the VIP. I spot Harve in the VIP. And I said to my friend, I was like, follow that fur. We got to follow that fur. When I was 21, I was so bold, and I was just like, I still am a hustler, but I had like balls when I was like 21, because I was like, the world was my oyster. I wasn't really faced with like much disappointment. I wasn't jaded. I was just like, yo, like, I got to get to him. I got to talk to him. I talk my way into VIP. I don't even know what I say to the security guard, but I get in VIP. And I see Harve, and I'm like, hey, even like telling the story, like when I tell the story, I'm like, I can't believe I actually did that. So I go to him and I'm like, hey, like, my name's Natasha. I go to Georgetown University. This is in the club, right? So I'm like filling up my resume. I was like, I just want to work for you. And he was like, all right, here's my office number. Call me tomorrow. And we were like, what? I'm like, oh, I made it. Like, I got his office number. It's it. That's all I needed. And then I called we called like when we got back home just to make sure it worked. We're like, oh, because we like remembered the number down. We like wrote it in our phones. And then I called every day for 5 months straight.
Wow.
Because again, like, this is like, it was hunger. Like, I didn't have a job. I don't have like, I don't come from the type of family that it's going to be okay for me just to go to college and spend all that money and then not have a job. And that didn't sit right with me either. And I had all these big dreams and ambitions. So I called for 5 months straight. And one day, his assistant picked up the phone, and I was like, great. Like, she was like, oh yeah, come in for an interview. The next day was the New York City blackout. So that like the day I was supposed to interview.
Oh, wow.
So that like ended that. But then I kept calling for a couple more weeks after. And when I went in an interview with him, he was like, all right, cool. We're going to have you start as an intern. Right. So I hustled my way in. Like, it's a long story, but that's how I got my start at Bad Boy. And I was an intern. I had a dual degree from Georgetown University, and I was an intern making $40 a week, and then worked a side job just to pay my other bills. And then I promised my father I would at least try to like apply to law school. So I was taking like an LSAT class and doing all of that stuff while I went to Bad Boy 3 days a week. And then I was like, I made a promise to myself. I was like, I'm going to outwork everyone because I want to be here. And so in the matter of like 3-4 months, I went from intern to assistant to one of his assistants, like his junior assistant, from junior assistant to his main assistant to a product manager in a year, a marketing product manager. Because I was like, it's hunger. Like when you have that dream, when you don't have many options, what are you going to do? You have to make it work. And then that's the type of all the folks who were at Bad Boy, like Bad Boy attracts that type of person with the hustle. And then in order to be there and thrive there, you have to keep up with Puff. So you're not going to be able to survive if you don't have that kind of hustle and curiosity and just that ambition just to get things done.
Wow. See, here's the thing. I've known you for that long, and I didn't know that whole story. That's crazy. That's crazy. But here's the thing, right? Like you said something that I don't think gets enough notice. You called for how many months? You called that man?
5 months straight.
5 months straight. So you were getting the secretary, or you were getting voicemail. What were you getting?
No one was answering. I would just get the voicemail, so I would keep calling.
So were you leaving voicemails, or was it a fact of like, nah, just click, call back tomorrow?
Because I was like, who am I? And then I'm like, oh, hey, hi, Harve told me to call him. No, I was like, I need a person on the phone so I can explain. Yeah. And I think I'm glad that you stopped at that, because I think I'm not like a ageist, but I think what we see in these times, this generation, is that we're living in it's not
instant gratification.
It's instant gratification. We live in a microwave society where it's like, if something doesn't work out, then I'm moving on to the next, or it doesn't, or you have this chip on your shoulder. And I'm like, no, like you have to hustle. You have to hustle. You have to be tenacious. You cannot give up. I love when I see, like, there's like a bunch of young people that I see out there who inspire me, who are just like, oh, I didn't get this job at this company, so I'm going to go build my own thing. Like, that is the type of mentality that you have to survive and to thrive. I think in to be at the top of any of in your career, you have to have that type of mentality. And so
basically, you. So I'm sorry. I cut you short.
no,
But no. I just want to stay on that because it's like I need people to understand that, like you said, if you want something, you got to really, really go after this. And it's not going to be tomorrow or the next day. It might be a year from now that you get to where you need to get to. And it's just an entry in the door. I heard just to jump ship just a little bit. I heard an interview with this other DJ, Flex. Flex had an interview, and he talked about how he was already on the radio. He was #1 guy on the radio, but this club he wanted to DJ at, this is back in the tunnel days. Like, they were like, all right, he can play, but he's got to play for free at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, okay, play for free at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, move him to 2 o'clock. Move him to 2 o'clock. Okay, move him to 1 o'clock. Now you got to pay me. So, like, it's the point of what you're making. Like, you have to really want this if you really want this. So I'm sorry, continue.
No, and you have to work for it too. Because me, as like, I thought I was the smartest person in the room. And like, so I'm like, oh, I'm a smart kid. I deserve to get a job. You're not entitled to anything. If you have not provided results, it doesn't mean anything. Like, what you did, like, there's like that great book, like, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. That's type of the mentality that I've always tried to live by, is that, like, okay, what worked for you to get into college is not going to necessarily work for you to get into a particular job. So you have to learn the game, and then you have to prove yourself, and you have to study it, understand it, understand what results and success looks like, and then do that. It's not the same, right? And so I love that Flex story, because it is the hustle. It's like, sometimes you're gonna have to take a pay cut. Sometimes you're gonna have to, like I did work. I worked for $40. I'm not now, but I've had 15 years plus of experience to say, like, I don't need to do that anymore, right? But it's time for you to build that up.
Right. Just to talk about the bad boy era just a little bit more. You mentioned you ended up becoming a product manager. Can you talk about what that is and some of the artists that you worked with during that time?
Yeah, and it was like accidental. So when in Bad Boy, like, after, Harve Pierre was the VP of A&R at the time. And so I thought at the time I wanted to be in A&R because I just love music. But I realized after working for Harve, especially those first couple of months, it's like, I don't enjoy the studio. I'm an early riser, and I like to go to bed early. So I'm like, I don't like to stay up at night and to be up there until 3, 4, 5 in the morning being in the studio. That wasn't my jam. But what I gravitated towards was some of the marketing work. So in a couple of months after I started interning, and I was Harve's A&R intern, he then was elevated to general manager. And with him being general manager, he now had just purview over all of the business. And that was great learning experience for me as his assistant, because if you know something about one thing about the music industry, the assistants are the gatekeepers.
Facts.
The the assistants run the day-to-day of the executives, right? Because you have to, like, you're basically your executive COO. Like, you're their chief, you're making everything operate. So I had an opportunity to see all facets of the business, right? So before it was really just A&R, so it was A&R now, marketing, promotions, marketing, finance. So I started gravitating more towards some of the marketing stuff and helping out, like, the wonderful Tracy Waples on some projects. So, like, some of the artists that I worked with from a marketing perspective was Mace, when Mace came back, Loon. We did the Bad Boy 10th anniversary album and helping out with that. And then my artist was New Edition, and that kind of just like fell into my lap because we had the VP like depart, and like the day before we were shooting a video looked like it's crazy with Hype Williams for Hot Tonight. If you remember that song, that was
Hot Tonight.
So we were shooting that in Mexico with Hype Williams, I wasn't going. I was just coordinating everything, making it happen. And their product manager was the head of marketing, had quit, and Harve came to me and was like, "Do you have a passport?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a passport." He's like, "All right, we're about to book you a flight to go to Mexico tomorrow to go do this New Edition shoot. You're now taking over New Edition." And again, I'm like 22. I've been here for like 8 months. I'm sure New Edition wasn't happy about that. We got over that. They're like, I love them, but they were like not happy with that. But I had to show up.
You want to show and prove, right?
I had to show up, and I was like, for my boss to believe in me, like, meant a lot to me. I was very junior and green in my career. That meant a lot to me, so I had to show up because he had that faith in me. So those are some of the artists that I worked with. Sherry Dennis.
The Sherry Dennis. Yeah.
How could I forget Sherry Dennis, the band. And those are some of the artists that I work with. But the closest I was with was with New Edition. Oh, and Black Rob. How could I?
Oh, Black Rob. Okay. All right.
Lots of stories about Black Rob. Lots of stories.
I can imagine. I've heard a few over my years, but that's a whole nother podcast for another day. Listen. So I know personally you left Bad Boy at a point and moved over to Jive. If you could say why you left Bad Boy and moved over to Jive, and how was the experience working at Jive?
Yeah, so I was at Bad Boy at that point. It was about 3 years, and again, if you know anything about Bad Boy, like, it legit is can't stop, won't stop. And I got to a point where I was burnt out, like, completely. Like, not even joking. I was in the hospital for dehydration for like overnight. It was like not like a night, and it was real. So I was just like, you know what? I love my job. I love this, but I need to go understand other parts of the business, and that's, to me, is a key thing. Like, when you have to know when to leave a place, like a job, a relationship, like, you have to know when to fold them. And at that point, again, it was no love lost, but I just it was time for me to leave. My personal goal then was really, I just wanted to understand other parts of, like, media entertainment. So even before going to Jive, I did a 1-year stint at MSNBC in news as like a producer, like production assistant. Because I was like, I'm a news junkie. I loved it, but it wasn't for me. And then a woman who I used to work with at Bad Boy had a role open at Jive in video promotions, Anne-Marie Stripling,
Anne-Marie,
wonderful,
the homie.
Yeah, she's still a big sister and mentor to me. And she, again, like, this is the importance of having really good relationships wherever you go, and having a brand of like delivering, because other people are watching. It's not just your boss. Other people are watching constantly. So Anne-Marie was not my boss, but we worked, like, she worked at Bad Boy, and I like helped her around on her stuff too. And she brought me over to Jive. So I went to Jive to go be the manager of video promotions, and I loved it because Jive was just popping then. Like, Jive was awesome at the time. Like, we had T-Pain at the height of T-Pain, the height of Chris Brown, Ciara, Usher, Little Mama, Outkast, another artist who I won't name anymore, who's kind of like, he's R. Kelly. But like,
listen. R. Kelly at the time, what was those records? It was yeah, all them records. Yeah, I mean, it was a part of your history, and that's what it is. So it was Chris Brown during the Run It era, right? That's the era we're talking about. Yeah.
That's my baby. Then, so I had a lot of fun at Jive. I had a great time at Jive. My role there was as a manager of video promotions, was to get the artists on like the video network. So this is pre-YouTube. Like, YouTube was just popping up then, and the record labels were not really messing with YouTube or tech at all because it was their bread and butter. Like, the record labels were incentivized and needed to keep people buying CDs because the margins on CDs were incredible. But at this time that I was at Jive, was the era of music where you start seeing the unbundling of the album. This is where iTunes is coming up and people are buying singles for 99 cents. People are buying mobile ringtones. And I really started seeing how consumers were consuming like entertainment through technology, but we weren't, the labels weren't embracing it yet. And so during that time, I was like, there's something here, because I do it, right? Like, and I'm a consumer too, and I'm seeing how it's happening. And I was like, there's something here. And I think I need to go, like, I'm like, do I go to business school? I was thinking about going to business school part-time to be able to transition. But I'm like, I love what I do. I love being at Jive, but I know there's something here. And I wanted us to be a lot more innovative, but the labels weren't, because it would decimate their business model as they knew it. Right. But it happened anyway. And so this is the lesson anyway. It happened anyway. And so after maybe like a year and a half of me being at Jive, I got laid off. This was 2009, because
when everybody was getting cut, everybody was getting right, because of the downsizing, because of technology. The jobs were it was like what, 7 to 8 people in promo. Now there was just one. So
exactly. Yeah. And I, unfortunately, and I was like, oh my God, well, what am I gonna do? But honestly, it was really hard, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me. The hardest part of it wasn't just happening in the music industry. We had an entire recession in our country. This is when Obama just like came into power and had to clean up the economy. So everyone was hurting. And so that took that, like, I was off for maybe a year, and I started doing like just some like indie stuff, like just to stay afloat and to pay my rent and to be able to live. And I started doing just some independent promotion, video promotion, just getting like independent artists, giving them a look to be able to get on BET or even BET.com. But even during that time, I was like, I know that I need to transition, I need to innovate, and I need to level up, and to be able to move into another business, which is technology. So I went to business school. I applied, like I worked my tail off. I did indie jobs to pay for my
business school.
GMAT. Well, not even business, for my just to take my class, the GMAT, to take the GMAT. Like I wanted to stay prepared after I'd been out of school at that point for like 6-7 years. And so I did that. I got all, I did that. I was able to stay afloat, and I got into my dream school. And so this is one of the lessons. And I think I actually got this lesson from watching Puff, is like, you have to innovate or you are going to perish. So like, like you have to. And you could see, like, even he was really early on, when he, built this huge music business, right? He used this label and made lots of money off of it, but that wasn't enough for him. He's like, oh no, I need to learn how to monetize my brand and get into like fashion. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to take this and I'm going to get into like TV. And then I'm going to go get into liquor. And so he's such a great business mind, because he understands the power of diversification. Right. And so like, I kind of took that from him, and it's like, all right, I love music, and I think music is going to always be part of what I do, but I know that can't be the only thing. Right. And so that's why I went to business school, to really get that foundation of, like, I had a finance degree, but I was focusing more on marketing in my day to day. And I was like, I want to learn strategy. I want to learn how to be able to learn all of these secrets from the most strategic minds, learn from my classmates, so that I can transition into the business of my choosing and excel. And so that's how I moved from like music into tech.
Now, what school is this dream school that you're speaking of, if you don't mind me asking?
Of course, I went to Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. Is the top school for marketing in the world. And so I like, to me, I was like, this is my top, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get in there.
And now, you fell in love with marketing, but like you said, you already had your finance degree. So you didn't want to go back to doing finance after, like, you.
But I will say this, like, I can't imagine myself working in finance in the day-to-day, but my finance degree has helped me be a better marketer, because I'm not afraid of numbers. Like there's some, and I know I have some marketing friends who are like, oh, I don't know how to do, and I'm like, nope, I know how to do a budget. I know ROI. I know how to crunch numbers. So
that makes sense.
I'm not afraid of numbers, but I don't want to do that. But I'm not afraid of numbers.
No, I get it. You just gave me the gem in my head. You're right, because your finance degree allow you to have a better vision of what to do in marketing, what to spend money over here, to put the money over here, and so on and so forth. No, I got it. Absolutely. I got it. You just taught me something without teaching me something. That was nice. So, let's talk about, like you said, you went back for your master's at Kellogg, and after you got out, what happened? Did you get a job immediately? What was the plan from there?
So one of the things that you do between your first and second year, when you go to business school full time, you intern at a place. And so my goal going into business school was to go to like a consumer packaged goods company, like a Coke or a Pepsi, like a brand that uses music as a marketing tool. And what I realized is like they weren't really hiring people like that to do that. And here once again, I found myself this deja vu. I have all these lessons, but I wasn't successful at getting these jobs because obviously I was more passionate about that piece of it and not like what people who are like brand managers. It's like you're like a general manager of the brand and you own what's called a P&L, profit and loss, and I was like, no, I want more of the entertainment marketing stuff, and that's not what this was. But again, here we go. It's the same thing that happened to me when I was in college. There was one job that was posted by Apple, and the job was a strategic marketing. I believe that's what I did for iTunes. And the job description, when I read it, I was like, this is for me. It was someone who had worked in like urban marketing, in music, had music industry experience, who was in a top business school, who can who understood the business but knew what. So I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to pair entertainment and tech. This could not be more perfect. And I interviewed and I got the job. So it was my internship, and so I did that at Apple when it was still iTunes, not Apple Music. And I was like, I really want to be in tech at this point. And so I didn't love San Francisco. When I moved, I didn't really love San Francisco. So I was like, I don't know if I would go back there. So I was like, I wanted to open up my options. And there was a marketing leadership development program at Verizon, which is back here on the East Coast. I wanted to come back home, and I interviewed and I got the job. So I was like, cool. And for me, it was interesting because one thing about entertainment is like mobile was fueling all that consumption. People weren't sitting at home, listening. They were doing all this stuff on the go. So I wanted to understand that business, like telco and mobile. And then I wanted to be at a big brand and get like some big brand learnings. Like Verizon's a huge brand, spends over, like $1 billion in advertising every year. I wanted to go to a place like that. And I was able to like move around and understand through this leadership development program, like get different experiences to see where I fit. And so I was there for about 2.5 years. I did a rotation. I first started like their multicultural social media and digital strategy. That was cool. Then I rotated to another role that worked within like marketing strategy and like consumer insights. And so it was using a lot of the stuff that I learned in school. I didn't learn all this, like in the music business, it's not formal. You're not doing all this formal stuff. You're not going and you're not doing consumer insights. You're not seeing people. I didn't learn that in the music industry. What I learned in the music industry was more taste and culture and some of the things that cannot be taught. So now I felt by having my MBA, having this experience at a big brand that's doing all this formulaic stuff, and then the stuff that can't be taught that I learned in the music industry, I was like, now I feel in a place that I'm dangerous. Like now I feel like I'm dangerous. Like I have something that's distinct. I have something that's unique. You can't like, especially what was honed in the music industry and especially what I learned in business school. And now I was ready to go somewhere and put all that stuff together. And that's how I went to YouTube, where I was leading music industry marketing. So it really was like a perfect culmination of all of those things. Like, YouTube at the time when I joined almost 6 years ago, which is crazy, had a very tenuous relationship with the music industry. Think about it. Like and like I was so gung-ho about going there, but this was really the business that maybe
that was killing the music business. Facts. So hold on. Yeah, hold on. I want to back up. How did you get to Verizon from iTunes? Like was it a situation where the job was open online and you applied, or did they seek you? How did that happen?
It was the job was open. We have like a online board at school, like job posting board.
Yeah.
At school, and that's how I found it.
And so when you were at Verizon, what happened that you wanted to move to YouTube? Excuse me. That was it a point of you felt you were at a ceiling? Was the other job better? What happened?
I felt I learned a lot, but I felt for me, I learned a lot. But again, it's one of those things is I know when it's time to go, where I feel like I've learned all that I need, that I feel like I need to learn, and it was time to go. And I don't necessarily think it was a cultural fit for me. And that's really important for folks.
Now, when you say cultural fit, do you feel like there wasn't enough representation at Verizon where you were? Do you feel like they weren't understanding what you were trying to pitch to them as far as, listen, this is my culture. I'm trying to explain to you what's happening over here, and they weren't listening? What happened?
There's a number of things. I think representation in corporate America, you're going to have representation issues at most places.
Right.
I think for me, the type of places that I thrive in and am interested in being is like places where I'm like super impressed by like the people that I'm working with, that people are curious, that people are busting the status quo, and there's a lot of room for innovation. And so I enjoyed my time there. I liked my time there because for what I learned, like, again, I got to put in place a lot of consumer insights. I'm like doing studies in fields. I'm working on stuff that I then now see 2-3 years later on TV. So it was a good experience for me at the time. It's what I needed coming out of business school. But after I had done my rotations, I felt it was time. I'm like, I got what I needed, and it was time for me to then go.
I understand. So you're still looking for something that has the balance of where you can apply your skills and you still love what you do. I understand.
Absolutely.
I understand. And okay, I'm sorry.
I missed music. I missed music. I missed entertainment. I missed it. So yeah, then I missed it.
So you made it to YouTube now. This is what, 2015? I think you made it over there?
Yep, 2015. Yeah, that over there. And that was like a recruiter reached out to me and was like, hey, we see your resume and this thing. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. This is great. That was actually what I considered a dream job. And it was worth, like I told you, I didn't really love San Francisco. And I ended up moving to San Francisco to take the job at YouTube because I really, again, it was a dream job. It's like literally what I went to business school for. Like what I could not have wrote it out any like it couldn't have been even more perfect of a fit for me. And, again, at the time when I joined YouTube, 10 years of innovation for the music industry. And within our team, I was the first person from the music industry who had music industry experience that was hired.
Oh, wow.
Full time. Yeah. And it was what I realized who I am. And what I am is I fancy myself a builder. So I like going into places and building stuff from scratch. So that was really exciting to be able to build all the stuff that we built at YouTube. At the time, they were just starting the YouTube Music app and a real earnest focus on, the music offering, because it was all happening organically without them even investing in it. And this is like I joined YouTube even before Leor joined YouTube, and there was a lot. When I was there, I was like, "This is how it works in the music industry." And so when he came in, I was so excited
because it was someone else there that could be like, "No, we're telling you, this is how it works. Exactly. Listen to us." No, I got you.
And I adore Leor, and he was great. And so I loved my time at YouTube to be able to build that and do the first things ever there. Like while I was there, I did our first ever party at the Grammys. Like they had never done that before. I did the first ever event at the Grammys.
From here on out, we're gonna drag everything you're talking about, because everything you're talking about is some is some movie star shit. Okay, all right. Let's drag this out a little bit more. First off, let me back up for a second. For those who don't know, I'm sorry, everyone who watches this might not be music savvy, but we were talking about Lyor Cohen. Lyor Cohen joined YouTube, and he's a heavy hitter in the music business for eons. He's Def Jam. Anyway, yeah, that's what we were talking about. So now, Tasha's at I'm sorry, Natasha is at YouTube. Listen. I'm sorry, I went into friend mode for a second. Um, Natasha's at YouTube now, and we're at the Grammys with a party for YouTube. Explain, please.
Our first ever. So when I first joined YouTube, again, like a lot of my job was just like even just educating people internally on how things work in the music industry. And YouTube is part of Google, and everything in tech has to be measurable. And it's like, how do you measure the impact of a party? And so that's but in the music industry, events and parties are a currency.
Right.
When you think about it, like think about back in our day, if you couldn't get into a party, like getting an invitation to a party was a currency. That's kind of like where, in other businesses where it's the golf course, that's
yes.
In the music industry, that's where you're networking. That's where people are making deals. That's where people are going to be seen. So I had to make that case and say, like, it's not measurable. Like we're used to saying, okay, if we do this ad and people click on this, and then if you have this CTR score, and then, like, that's how tech is used to. So like being in a place like music, entertainment, it's very unique how you do business. And so it took a lot of convincing to do it. And then we did it, and then I just kind of like building upon that. And a lot of my role was around building these, what I called high touch experiences to build the bridge between the music industry and YouTube. So some of the things that I did, so again, the first thing I did our first ever party at the Grammys. I did our first ever party at the BET Awards. And then one of the ones that I'm super proud of is I did our first ever presence at the Latin Grammys, and I built an entire Latin music and hip hop marketing strategy about how do we build closer relationships with those sides of the businesses. Because if you look at popular music at that time, like we know it's hip hop, but now you see how Latin has exploded. I feel like I was what do I call it? Like a cultural anthropologist that's saying, like, these are the trends that are happening, and it's happening in our platform.
Facts.
But and we need to be doing more to invest in these businesses and in these sides of the businesses and these artists, because it's only going to continue to grow. So that's one of the things that I've been most proud of, is like seeing things early, like early indicators before we hit the inflection point. Because when you hit the inflection point, it's too late. I always say data, again, tech really values data. I feel data is a lagging indicator. Like,
I agree. The feeling, you have to have the feeling first before data. That's, I mean, again, we're dinosaurs a little bit, but we come from, listen, we're telling you this is hot, but the data doesn't show it. Man, if you don't listen to me right now, this is hot.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
There's some indicators, right? You can tell that there's some indicators. And one of them, like before Despacito hit, let me give you an example. Like I was, again, being in a place like Google, like YouTube, we have a lot of data, right? You see the data, like everybody has access to data. You can see like what people are looking at and listening to by looking at the views. Right. And I'm looking at the data. I'm like, wow, this Latin American music is, the Latin music is going crazy. And I reach out to our person who's in Latin America, and I'm like, can you give me some more data that's happening in your market? And she's like, yeah, it's the fastest growing. And I'm like, I need to elevate this to my side on the marketing side. So, like this is coming, and we need to be investing in this, because this is a very significant part of the music industry that we need to get in on early, right? Because when you get in on it early, then, all the artists are going to come, and they're going to, like, our goal is to have artists and labels invest their time on YouTube, right? Put your content here, but, invest your time on YouTube as our platform. And so you have to create these like programs and stuff for them to incentivize them to do it. And so I said that, and I was like, yo, we need to be at the Latin Grammys. Like when I was at Verizon, we used to be at the Latin Grammys, and this is what was happening at the Latin Grammys. And I think we need to do it. Just give me a couple dollars, let me plan something. And we did. And it was great. And this was in 2015 also when I first started? I'm trying to remember.
I feel like that was 2016. I feel like, but this is me outside looking in. So
I think it was actually no, because I moved back to New York it actually was 2016 when I was able to do our Latin work, and I invited an artist named J Balvin to perform.
Who was just bubbling,
and he wasn't bubbling mainstream, and I was like,
right.
Hottest, but I kept telling him he's the hottest Latin artist. And then I like also invited a young, and then this is not just me. This is like, we have people who are like on the ground who work in Latin music, and they're like, this guy's dope, and I'm like, oh yeah, his data is cool. We need to bring him. So like, I'm the person that's like kind of like, curating this whole experience. And I was like, there's a guy named Ozuna, brand new from Puerto Rico, didn't have a record label, didn't have a record deal, but he was bubbling. We like presented him with like a plaque because he had 1 million users, and he opened for J Balvin, and he got to meet J Balvin at our party, and that's
so y'all were the bridge. I got it.
Yes, and like to me again, that's my purpose. So like I don't get credit for the stuff I don't want it, but I know that I'm a bridge, right? And I'm creating these opportunities, and so now Ozuna's out of here, right? And then the next year in 2017, brought an artist named Bad Bunny to like, be the headliner for our party for the Latin Grammys, and you already know. And then there was a girl named Carol G that I brought on there, and now they're all out of here. So that's been some of my proudest work at YouTube, is like investing in artists really early. I also started an artist incubator program called the YouTube Music Foundry. And again, I'm happy like and this was my friend Grace from work actually brought this artist in, Dua Lipa, and she was part of our YouTube Music Foundry, and Dua Lipa is like she was best
out of here.
Amazing, but so I was really proud of that work, to be able to like take what I learned in the music industry, combine what I learned in tech, and start investing in artists really early. To really help support their careers.
Now, you mentioned investing in artists early. YouTube is how anybody 40 and under is watching television, right? Like from music videos to TV shows. You watch basketball games on YouTube now. How can I phrase this question? How important is it, do you think, for a young artist to try to get involved in what you guys are doing at YouTube?
Yeah, well, I can't even talk about that I'll talk about it because I don't work at YouTube anymore. I'm on the
that's right. You've leveled up. I'm sorry about that.
No, because I love the YouTube. I love the YouTube team, but as someone who has worked in the music industry, who's worked in tech, like it's essential. Like you have to have a presence on YouTube. It has to be part of your platform strategy. Absolutely. And then you have to and YouTube has a lot of information out there for artists, and not just artists, but anybody who wants to be a creator or influencer. There's a lot of information out there on like, how do you grow your channel? It takes work though, and consistency, but there's all this free information out there. If you Google like YouTube creators, I think it's YouTube creators.
No, I think you're correct with that. It is YouTube creators, because that's something that's out there for individuals. Absolutely. You talked about just leveling up. You're at the parent company now. You're over at Google as let me get this title right, U.S. Multicultural Lead. Is that your correct title?
Yes, I'm the Multicultural Marketing Lead, Inclusive Marketing Lead for our devices and services business specifically.
Now, what the hell is that? Can you break it down?
So it used to be our hardware business. So that's the Google Pixel suite of phones.
Yes.
Google Pixel phones and the Google Nest devices. So I work across those, and my job there is like this multicultural marketing, really bringing one of Google's models is to build for everyone, right?
Gotcha.
So
right.
you're building for everyone, you have to market to everyone. And so my job is really like expanding our audience targets to underrepresented groups. So my big, like, for Latinx, for Black consumers, for people with disabilities, for LGBTQ plus consumers, really doing bespoke marketing for them and making sure that all audiences are represented in our general market work as well.
So are you involved with making the commercials, the ads for print that go out? That's you.
The rooter to the tutor. What I call it full funnel marketing. So it's everything from it's starting with building like consumer insights to the strategy to the advertising for what you see.
Got you. Can you tell the people some of the ads you might have worked on that they might be familiar with, so they have an understanding of some of the stuff you've done?
Yeah, so super proud about these because this is the first time we've ever done Spanish language TV last quarter. So I'm really happy about that. So I just did an ad for the Google Nest audio devices. So it's new Google Nest speakers, which are awesome. And it features what we were doing. We have a general market ad that's really talking about like a lot of the specs, where it's like the surround sound and, like the new specs of the audio. But my Spanish language commercial was really about the fact that it's bilingual. And again, when you think about people who in our country who are Latinx, like, and you're bilingual, you're oscillating between two worlds at home. Your kids are speaking English, the grandmother's speaking Spanish, you're speaking both. And we have a device that can really help help people in the language that they love and they use at home. And so our commercial is showcasing that bilingual capability. It's really cute. It's like a grandmother comes in, like there's a teenage brother and sister, and they're fighting over what they want to hear on what music they want to hear. And the grandma comes in and she's like, play me bachata and like Spanish. And so like, it's super cute. So I hope you see it if you watch Telemundo or Univision.
That's dope. Yeah. How long have you been at Google, the parent company Google?
Well, I've been at Google in general 6 years. So 3 years at YouTube and about to be 3 years on the Google side.
What made you make that transition? What was the offer? Was it something internal that they were like, hey, you're doing a great job at this, let's move you over here?
I loved what I was doing at YouTube. Like I said, it was like dream job material. But I had spent 3 years there. And to me, that's usually my pivot point when I start looking about like, what's next? How can I grow? And there was an opportunity on this team to lead influencer marketing. And if anyone knows anything about influencer marketing is what social media was about 7 years ago. And again, me that I fancy myself a builder, I always like to be on the precipice of what's next in any business. So in marketing, influencer marketing was what's next. And I had loved what I was doing at Google, but at YouTube, but it was just time to just learn something new, right? I don't like to overstay my welcome anywhere. So it was time to grow and learn something new. And I wanted to get another peek at the other side of Google and to try my hands at that influencer marketing. I had been doing it my entire career. So that's how I started. I joined here and I did influencer marketing for about 2.5 years before moving over to my current role as like the first multicultural marketing lead.
That's awesome. I want to give you your praise at this moment, because I saw in late 2020 you got your acknowledgement as being 40 under 40 in AdAge. I'm super proud of you for getting out at that acknowledgement. Can you tell the people what that is, so outside of the industry that might not know?
Yeah, that was mind-blowing, to be honest, because AdAge is like the marketing industry Bible. It's one of the biggest publications in the marketing industry, and every year they offer the AdAge 40 under 40 of all the folks who are like the future leaders of advertising and marketing industry. So it was an incredible honor. Like, I don't do what I do for accolades or any of that stuff. And I'm such a behind the scenes person. So to be honored by a group of peers and other marketing leaders, like to see like someone's actually watching what I do it was really an incredible honor. And like it was nice. Like I never expected it. But it was really nice. And it felt good to, like, after years of working and, grinding, just to have your work recognized it's a nice feeling. I don't need it, but I appreciate that.
No, listen, I know you say we don't need it, but it's very nice to feel appreciated for what we do, right? At the end of the day, like you want to come home and feel appreciated at home. It's nice to feel that same way at work.
I felt like a Grammy. It was a shock. I was very honored.
With that being said, do you take time to mentor young individuals trying to come into the business?
Absolutely.
And because at times, you're on IG, I'm on IG. I scroll the feed and I'm like, oh, she's speaking at this. How important do you feel it is to give back to younger people, or just anybody in general who has a interest in marketing and what you do?
I feel I am a daughter of immigrants. My parents, like my siblings were not born in this country, right? Like I'm a Black woman. I feel an incredible sense of duty to, and like I feel that is one of my purposes, to help others and to help guide others and to open up doors that were not open for me. So I always, like, as much as I can, and like I thought about that earlier this year. I was like, I do as much as I can. I go and I speak on these panels, and I thought about myself because I'm a tech marketer. I'm like, how do I scale this? Like, how do I scale this? And so I started doing last year, because there's people who reach out to me, and I try as much as I can, and I'm crazy busy. So I started a small, like a virtual mentoring circle with a couple of young women, a young Black woman, just to give them this, put them up on game. And one of them, and I love it because like they're just awesome. And one of them, who I adore, she got an offer at a dream job, and she called me and she's like, "This is what they offer me." I'm like, "No, girl, this is what we're gonna do. Here's." And she did, and then she was like, they accepted it. And I was like, of course they did. And I think that we need to, I had women help me. Like I had so many mentors who helped me informally. They weren't like, "Oh, I'm going to mentor you," like informally mentor me. There's like Anne-Marie Stripling, my bad boy, really. It was Anne-Marie Stripling, it was Candy Shan, it was Tracy Waples, Allison Stanley, Wendy Washington. When I was at Jive, like there was so many women who fed into me, that like now I'm at a place where, like, when I was like young in my 20s, I was like looking up to like women like me now. And I'm like, so like it feels great to be able to accomplish that, but it's nothing if I can't help somebody else. None of this means anything. And so I started my virtual mentoring circle. I'm a mentor. I'm very involved in my alumni council at Kellogg. And what I'm doing this year that I'm gonna launch soon is a podcast around pursuing your passion, and bringing and like showcasing how I pursue my passion and chose this path to passion, and how bringing in my other friends and colleagues who did the same thing in an effort to inspire folks.
Hey, I love that. Mm-hmm. Do we have a name for the podcast yet? Is it coming very soon? Do we have a date?
Very soon. We have a website. We don't have a date yet, but we have a website. It's coming soon. It's called the Path to Passion Podcast, the PPP.
PPP.
Well, thank you for letting me announce it here. But it really is. People feel like there's a powerful thing that a couple of friends have told me. You cannot be what you don't see. And so if you have this dream inside of you, and you don't see people who look like you or who have your same story that are doing it, you're going to feel like you can't do it. Most people. And so what I want to do, again, as my duty, is to show you like, no, this is possible. And maybe it's not my path, but here's 20 other people who are doing something, and one of these stories should be able to inspire you to live the life of your dream. Because I mean, you have a passion for music, and like, could you imagine if you didn't pursue that? Like, think about the people you know who did not pursue their life's passion, and like how that eats you up and burns you up, and life is too short. So I'm here to help inspire anyone. Like, you can do what you want to do. It just takes a lot of hard work. Here are the tools. I can give you as much tools as possible, but you have to go out and do it yourself. And so my hope is to be able to provide that like blueprint so other people feel motivated to pursue a career of their own passion.
You gave some great gems just now. And it's been the recurring theme when I have these conversations with my friends. In my first podcast I had a conversation with my friend Dr. Sampson, and he said the same thing. Like, he mentors as well, and he was basically saying these kids don't know that they can do this. I did it. I'm telling you, you can do this too. I didn't know what a hedge fund was until I was 25. Mm-hmm. But if I was 18, maybe I would have invested in that. Maybe I would have tried to be, an analyst at that age. But these kids need to know these positions exist, mm-hmm. and that people like us are already here. We can help you. So yeah. I think that's dope. What you guys are working on. Yeah. Tasha, I think we buttoned this up really nicely. Yay. Just one last thing though.
Right.
How's your mental health going on with everything that's going on outside right now? How are you doing up here?
Last night I felt very disheveled. I felt exhausted. Like it's a new year, so you come in the new year excited, and then you see the country burning. Literally burning. And so I felt like really exhausted. And I'm glad that you did touch on mental health, because in general, we as Black people need to kill the stigma around mental health. We, more than anyone, we're not going to talk about other communities. We're going to talk about our own community. Like, sure. What we deal with day in and day out, being a marginalized group in this country alone is enough that would make anybody crazy or crack. So that doesn't mean that you're weak if you go to therapy, if you seek help. I go to therapy once a week on Thursdays from 3 to 4 o'clock Eastern. And I'm honest about it.
How does it help you get through the week?
I mean, I honestly, so there's my thing is like, and for those who listen who are like, oh, well, I have God too. Right. And I know my God is there God is first, and then therapy, and my mental health is second. And I feel like it's a really good complement to my own spirituality, because this is a lot. Like, again, like, I'll be honest, like, sometimes, like, I'm often at work the only Black, not just Black woman, but Black person in a room. And like, there's bias that exists, and people automatically think that you're not this and like that. And that's a lot to take on. And I deal with that in therapy. I've had lots of life changes. Like, it's almost 3 years ago, I lost my dad, and I was one of his caregivers. So like doing that, and like I lost my dad in 2018 and took care of him throughout 2017. And so doing that and working but that's a lot. And I had to recognize that, like, I used to, we Black women think we're superwomen, and we are, but even superwomen needs a break, right?
Yes.
Superwomen needs, and I thankfully grew up, my mom's retired now, but my mom was a psychiatric nurse. So I never grew up thinking that the stigma. I grew up always understanding that mental health is critical. And so I don't feel any qualms or any embarrassment about the fact that I go to therapy, and I actually recommend it to folks. And I'm really happy to see the movement out there of destigmatizing mental health in our community, because it is a lot, like stress and pressure and anxiety that we deal with. And if we're going to continue to be the strong folks that we are, and we want to break all these generational curses and fight the good that we have to fight every day, being Black in America, we need to take care of our mental health.
And that's a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, This is one of my good friends, Natasha Aarons. She is an A personality, if you haven't figured out by now. But listen, I appreciate you taking some time to sit with us today on Wave Files. And please check out her podcast coming out very, very soon. We will see her on the gram and as well as up in Google. Natasha, again, thank you. This is Wave Files. Reg West, we out.